Welcome to today's presentation on staying ahead of building risk. We'll look at why the first visible sign of a building problem is often only a symptom, and how understanding the full pathway leads to better decisions. Building problems rarely begin where they first become visible. A ceiling stain, comfort complaint, or unexpected increase in energy use is often the end of a much longer pathway. Air, heat, moisture, and pressure move through connected building systems before the damage ever appears. Treating only the visible symptom can therefore lead to repeated repairs while the active mechanism remains upstream, unresolved. Staying ahead of building risk requires a consistent process. Trace the pathway, test the mechanism, prioritize the risk, and verify the solution. These are visible consequences of building risk, but they're not always separate problems. Mold, structural damage, operational disruption, higher energy use, premature failure, and safety hazards can all develop from the same unresolved movement of air, heat, moisture, or pressure. A small defect can spread across several systems before the consequence. That's why symptoms should be treated as clues to a broader mechanism, not automatically as isolated events. Risk begins to compound where building enclosure and MEP systems interact. An enclosure defect can allow uncontrolled air, heat, or moisture into the building. The mechanical system then compensates by running longer and harder to maintain temperature, humidity, and pressure. That compensation may hide the original problem while energy use rises, materials deteriorate, and equipment reliability declines. The risk is not simply one system or the other. It is how the systems interact. The next step is diagnosis. Confirming the active mechanism before deciding how to fix it. We begin by observing where and when the condition appears. Targeted testing then helps identify whether the driver is air leakage, moisture movement, heat flow, pressure imbalance, or another mechanism. Intrusive openings or further verification may be needed to confirm concealed conditions. This evidence distinguishes an isolated defect from a systematic risk. Testing is known and a controlled cost, whereas a misdiagnosis can create open-ended risk through repeated repairs, expanded scope, and poorly informed capital decisions. Once the mechanism is confirmed, we can look for how the same risk may appear elsewhere across the building or portfolio. Air and moisture movement at roof-to-wall transitions or rooftop penetrations, for example, may cause complaints in suites, damaging common areas, and increase HVAC runtime or service calls. The symptoms may differ, but the underlying mechanism may be the same. Portfolio-wide condition assessments of roofing, building envelope, HVAC, and other major systems establish the baseline needed to compare risks, identify reoccurring issues, and prioritize capital needs consistently. This is where technical findings become an implementable plan. First, identify and stabilize the active mechanism. Then, coordinate enclosure and MEP work so one system is not corrected at the expense of the other. Physical work should be phased to maintain operation and limit disruptions. The final intervention may involve repair, rehabilitation, or replacement, but it should be based on the confirmed mechanism and level of risk. Budget follows priority. Sequencing protects operation, and quality assurance protects the outcome. That is how condominium teams stay ahead of building risk. Pinchin's building science and resiliency teams support existing condominium buildings from condition assessments and capital planning through restoration design and construction quality assurance. With offices across Canada, we combine local support with national technical resources. Thank you for your time, and please feel free to contact Pinchin for assistance with your building science, restoration, and capital planning needs.